I'm so excited about this topic. Jackie brought it to us recently, and it was just like, yes, this is such a relatable topic for so many people. Are you feeling rigid? Are you feeling tense? Are you stuck in your head? Are you trying to control every element of your life, but you're still feeling like you're swimming upstream? And you know that that's not the optimal way to be doing it. And you know that there's a way to feel relaxed and to feel this flow and to feel like you are agile and flexible and able to do a lot more with a lot less energy, but somehow you're not in that state and you're more stuck in a state of lots of energy and still feel like you're not getting everything done. If any of that is relatable to you, that is a whole lot of what we're going to be covering in today's discussion, and so much more. And there's so much wisdom that is going to flow, I know, out of Sam and Jackie with this, because we've chatted a little bit about this before. And I'm super excited that you're joining us today for that discussion. So just a quick little introduction of us. If you're not familiar, I'm Common Free. This is my channel. And then I'm joined by my co-creator, Sam, who is a holistic life coach, and Jackie, who is a holistic nutrition coach. And the three of us created this amazing journey for women. We called it Coming Home to Yourself. It is a course, it's linked down below. And when we were creating that, there was just so much more. We kept wanting to pour into it, but eventually we had to launch it. And from that overflow, we have come to do these discussions. And if you find any value in them, this is just a tiny bit of a taster of what you can find in our very, very extensive course. So again, that is a link down below. Remember to sign up to our newsletter if you want to see any specials or discounts and receive more wisdom from these amazing women. And that is also linked down below. And just our quick disclaimer is our usual disclaimer. We're going to cover a lot in these videos, and we'd love to share our experience, and we love to share what we've read and a lot of information. But just a reminder that we are not medical experts or any of that. So nothing that we share in these videos is a medical advice or any other type of professional advice. If you so feel inclined, please contact your chosen expert who feels right for you to obtain more information if that is what you want. These videos are for fun, for educational purposes, and for relatability. And with that introduction and the disclaimer out of the way, Jackie, what inspired bringing up this topic?
I brought this topic up purely for selfish reasons. This is something I struggle with a lot. And I know that both of you have a lot of wisdom to share on this topic. So this is sort of like me getting coaching from you guys. But I know that it's a topic that a lot of women struggle with. A lot of my clients struggle with it as well. So I'm really excited to dive into this topic with you too. I have noticed myself falling back into that pattern of just being so overly productive almost, that I start to feel so rigid in my body. I feel very tense. I can feel my shoulders tensing up. I'm more prone to a lot of neck tension and headaches, and just really stuck in my head. And when I get like that, I find it very difficult to relax. I can't just sit and read a book. I can't just sit and enjoy being in the nature outside. I kind of constantly feel like I need to be productive, or I need to be on my phone. I need to be searching something. I need to be answering an email, and I know when I get like that it's not good for my body. My body recognizes that it's in more of a fight or flight state, and I think over time that can really start to cause issues in our physical body, and mentally it's just not a good state to be in. My mind just starts going in circles and circles, and I start repeating conversations in my head and worrying about things. And I think that our modern life sort of sets us up to be in this type of state a lot of the time, because we prioritize, or sort of society prizes, productivity. I think that a lot of women struggle in this state. A lot of women are not at their optimal mental and physical health because of constantly being in the state. I have a funny story to share. Last week, I feel like the universe gave me a clear message that I need to really sit down with myself and find ways to sort of more get into my flow state, my feminine energy, because I was locking up the house at night, and every single night I close our sliding door to outside. And last week, one night, I accidentally shut my finger in the sliding door. And I mean, like I said, I do that every single night. So it is such a strange thing to have my finger in the way, and I slammed that sliding door, and it was so painful. I looked at my nail and the blood just started pooling underneath my nail, and it was incredibly painful. It was throbbing, and it was almost like a message saying, you're stuck in your head. I probably did that because I was like, blah, 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 overthinking things. And it was like the universe saying, you are stuck in your head. You need to get back into your body. And if you're not going to do it, I'm going to cause you pain so that you have to be in your body. Because, I mean, as soon as there's pain, you're in your body. You're thinking, oh, so there's pain. And it's not the ideal way to be brought back into presence in your body. But it's like, like I said, if you don't do it, eventually something is going to force you to do it, because you cannot live life in your head. After I recovered from the pain, I sat down with myself and I just thought, okay, what is going on for me? What am I missing? And I just made a list for myself of things that I know just help to get me into my body, like give me present in my surroundings, that take me out of my head. And I just wrote down a list of things that I know, support me and do that for me. And I've just slowly started looking, okay, how can I incorporate these things into my day? Whether it's 2 minutes here or 5 minutes there, or maybe it's a half-hour practice when I get a chance. It's just things that I can incorporate into my day. And I've actually put the list up somewhere I can see it. And that's already helping me. Just a few days of that, I'm already just starting to feel less tense, less headache. That's why I wanted to chat to you guys about this, because I think you guys have some amazing wisdom to share on this. And I'm curious to hear what advice you would give to other women struggling with this.
Beautiful, Jax. Do you want to share what some of those things are with us in terms of like what actually kind of grounds you or connects you or bring you back into the present?
For me, the first thing that came to my head was music. I love like just listening to music, and I remember when I was a teenager, I would just often just lie in my bed and listen to music. Like, thank freaking goodness when we were teenagers, our phones couldn't do a million thousand things. Your phone wasn't that exciting. And I used to just lie in my bed and listen to music. And I've always turned to music as something that just can really feel it in my body, and just listening to the instruments and the music and the lyrics. And I just lost touch with that. I haven't done that in ages. Like sometimes I'll put music on in the background when I'm cooking or something, but not just sit and listen and just feel the music. So that's something I've been doing lately, is just putting some music on and not doing anything during that time, but just sit and enjoy it, which has been really, really nice. And then just some physical activity as well. I think physical activity really gets you into your body. And I'm physically active all day long because I have a baby and I'm more of a toddler now. And it's very physically active. But just doing something like a yoga practice, I think, where you're just intentionally focusing on yourself and your body during that, half hour, you need to prioritize that. That's the thing. I just wasn't putting it in my calendar. So if it's not on your calendar and you just say, oh, I should do yoga at some point, you're not going to do it. So I found a place in my calendar that I can say, this is my yoga slot, this is my time, and just actually put that in my calendar.
I think it's so important, like with these reminders, the reminder itself might seem a little bit rigid or structured, but we are living in a world that often has us completely disconnected and distracted and in our heads. And with that disconnection and distraction, we have this overwhelm that leads to a tendency to try and control everything, because there's too much on our plates on a day-to-day basis in our modern day lives. And those reminders are almost like little sacred promises that you make to yourself, sacred little anchors that bring you back into your body, that bring you back into presence. And without them, the endless to-do lists and the overwhelm seem to take precedence and priority. So I love that idea of kind of putting it out there, either on the fridge or on the wall, and just reminding yourself daily to kind of come back home to yourself and come back into your body, because from there, you can regulate. From there, you can bring awareness to where there's stress or where there's overwhelm. But oftentimes, we're unconsciously living in overwhelm. We don't even realize it. And our coping mechanisms then come out in rigidity and a need to control. I don't know if you guys are the same, but that's definitely how I am.
Yeah, I found it really interesting, the practices that to Jackie, because those are two things that I use like a lot in my life. And when you spoke about music, I remember when we got married, we had a moment to bring people back to being present with the ceremony, to really, because it's like a lot. You get there and you're excited and all of that. And the music we actually chose for that minute had a lot of humming in it. And one of the things that I even do with my toddler is sometimes I hum with her, because when I hum, this has to relax. That is so tense so often for me. So I'll actually link down below the song that I use. And recently I had a flight and I struggle a lot with flying, but I have also another song. It's about an hour and a half long and there is no words in it. But it's, again, just to bring you back to being present, because I find flying difficult. So sometimes I have a tendency to try wish away that time. And I don't want to wish away any time in my life, even if it's uncomfortable. I don't want to wish that time away. So I listen to the song to bring me back to that present time. And I think that music can be such like that anchor that Sam just spoke of. And then I also wanted to note yoga, because I remember on my own journey many years ago, a friend asked me, like, how did you start having an appreciation for your body and this sort of like being more with it rather than just, treating it like something that needs to serve me left, right, and center and only paying attention to it when it hurts. And I remember saying that yoga is not necessarily the form of exercise that may appeal to everybody, but it was the first one I'd ever done in my life that naturally was like, thank your body for being here today. Thank it for stepping onto your mat. And how does this feel? Like, don't move into the pose if it doesn't feel good. Where every type of exercise I had done before was like, no, push through the pain, do more. Where yoga was like, how does that feel in your body? Check in. How do you feel today? And the practice ends with you lying there, being present with yourself. So even though maybe yoga doesn't appeal to everybody, I think the principles of it was such a pivotal moment in my journey to coming back to my body and to being present, especially when I would do it first thing before I went to my very corporate go kind of job. To just be like, stop it with the to-do list. Stop it with what you have to do after this. The moment before this doesn't matter. The moment after this doesn't matter right now. Just be. And it was really hard for a long time before it became second nature.
I'm so glad you mentioned humming, because some of my clients think I'm absolutely bonkers when one of the first things that I give them in the mornings is a 5-minute humming practice. And I also have a song that I'll share with you, comps, that I share with it. Humming is also phenomenal because it activates the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve communicates to the nervous system, whether it's in a parasympathetic or sympathetic state. And so we want to be encouraging that parasympathetic state as much as possible. And humming can seem almost silly. Like, some of my clients literally look at me and they're like, what are you giving me? I must hum in the mornings. But it is one of the most game-changing ways to shift your state, to bring you into your body, to bring you into a space of mindfulness. And I just encourage everybody, try it for 2 minutes and see how your body feels, because it's such a beautiful tool to use. And then just in yoga, you mentioned so many beautiful things just around, leaving the to-do lists behind and kind of centering yourself on your mat for however long it is. As a yoga teacher, it's so beautiful for me to witness the first 5 minutes of my class, because there is a certain frequency and energy in which everyone comes into class with, specifically the afternoon classes. The mornings are a lot more fresh and kind of responding to life. The afternoon classes, there is kind of a heaviness that people bring onto their mats. And within those first 5 minutes of sitting still with their eyes closed, I always encourage people to release the distractions of their external environment and move into their internal landscape, and just gently scan their bodies and use their breath as an anchor and a point of awareness. So what is the tonality of their breath? How much can their lungs expand? How much spaciousness is there? How much stress is there? And just watching people for those first 5 minutes sit in on their mats and just become aware and become present. There is a softening and a release and just a gentleness that kind of welcomes into the space. And it's so beautiful what just a few simple minutes of intentional, conscious, mindful awareness into the moment can do for that rigidity and that kind of mental activity, just bringing you back to a place of ease.
and your phone is not next to you on your in that yoga class. I realized even at home, if you're doing a home yoga practice, put your phone in another room. Even though I dedicate, when I do say it's 20 minutes, maybe like a YouTube yoga video or something, if my phone is there, even if I can see it, or even if I just know it's there, I cannot believe what a distraction it is. Just thinking of, oh yeah, and I must respond to that email, I must check this. It's crazy. It's crazy. We are not meant to have this constant access to information, constant access to contact to the rest of the world. I think that is a huge contributor. And so something else that I've started doing now is leave my phone in a drawer. I do not need to take my phone with me from room to room to room to everywhere I go. You don't need that constant contact or constant access to information. And so I've just started leaving my phone in my room. I have a time of the day when I respond to messages and emails and things. But because I realize that with my daughter now, like we'll be sitting on the floor playing, and sometimes she'll be, doing her own thing. She's sort of entertaining herself with a toy or whatever. And I find myself reaching for my phone because I'm like, oh, well, I'm just sitting here. And it's in those moments where you can have that moment, like you mentioned, Sarah, that even if you just got 5 minutes, you can do that practice. And that is the perfect time when you're sitting next to your toddler playing, is to just take that moment. And the worst feeling for me, which is also a wake-up call for me, is when I'm like, oh, I can quickly just, go on my phone if she's doing her own thing. But then she'll turn to me because she wants me to acknowledge what she's doing. She wants me to see what she's doing. And if I miss that because my face is down on my phone, what's that teaching her? I think our phones, we really, really need to be mindful of our use of them.
I think having a kid, because it was very important to me how my relationship with my phone around my kid has always been important to me, my parenting journey. And it's so important to me what she sees. So it started doing this thing where I tell her if I'm going to pick it up, what I'm doing. Oh, I'm going to message Sam now. I'm going to do this. And it's really hard. Like you sit there sometimes and you have this inclination to just pick it up. But I read a book. It's called Breaking Up with Your Phone, I think it's called. But there was something in there that really was surprising, but it was a light bulb moment where she was saying, because we have access to so much information, we actually think that we have to have it all the time. So you'll be in a conversation and someone will say, oh, this type of bird or whatever. And you're like, oh yeah, let's look it up. And now we're all just, why do we have to know this right now? So you can talk about it, you can brainstorm, you can think about it, and you can also just leave it. And if maybe later you want to know about this type of bird, you can look it up. But we're in this way of life where we have to know things all the time. It took me many years to be okay with putting my phone on airplane mode at night because I had convinced myself that as a consultant, I have to be available 24 hours a day. And I know I had an employer who drilled that into me, but just because somebody told you have to be that way doesn't mean that you have to implement that in your life. And it was really, really hard for me to say, no, I'm sleeping now. I'm not going to check my emails at 2:00 in the morning because somebody might be emailing me. And it's a silly thing, but I think with our phones, there's a big element of seeing what relationship we have with it. But one of the things that I started doing the older my kid got, because she's more toddler, so she does play by herself a lot more, and she doesn't like it when I read. If I read, she wants to participate in that. So ideally, I would like to just read in that time, but I don't. So I started to crochet and I started to do arts and crafts projects instead because that is what I want her to see. What do I want her to see? I don't want her to see her mom with my face in my phone. I'd rather her see me doing something creative with my hands that's gentle and it feels good, or I can just be sitting there.
Colin, I love the idea of a creative project, but I took inspiration from you and I started trying to crochet, and I'm not very good. I made some really terrible looking things. Then I tried knitting and it didn't work. So I'm gonna have to look for some other creative hobbies because I do want to incorporate some creative hobbies because I think working with your hands is a great way to cultivate that presence.
Something that I find really helpful, I have ADHD, so my brain is constantly seeking dopamine from the minute I wake up until the minute I go to bed. And so the phone is the biggest access point for dopamine for me, and I can't always trust my sense of willpower. If the phone is there, there's usually, and we need to also understand, is that these machines have been built and engineered to have us reaching for them and addicted to them. So it's like, it goes beyond willpower now. Like you're actually against a machine. So what I have is I have a phone box.
Nice.
And throughout the day, the phone literally goes into the box. And then when I'm done with the day, the phone goes into the box as well, because that just it creates a barrier. And like Jackie said, she puts the phone in the drawer. You've got to help yourself. Just putting your phone over there and thinking you're not going to reach for it, you lie to yourself.
Don't set yourself up for failure. Yeah. By the way, if you want to go a next step further, I was going to do this for my husband, but you can buy a timed box that covers your phone that you're able to answer like a call, but you're not able to do anything else. And that box is timed. So you cannot get your phone out. You can call emergencies or whatever, but you're not able to scroll and you're not able to do any of that. So just remember, it's not your willpower that's not great. If you have an issue with your phone, there's a lot of difficulties around phones because, like Sam said, they are built for your attention. They want your attention.
Just the fact that that's a product on the market tells you how many people are straight-based with their phone. But I just want to kind of veer a little bit into kind of just discussing, we kind of all know why we're maybe overwhelmed or why there's so much rigidity in our lives. And specifically as women, we are the wearers of many hats. We are moms, we are business owners, we are running the show in a big way. And that often kind of comes with a burden and a cost and a consequence. And that Jackie's just reflected us back to that. It's just constantly being up in our heads, making to-do lists, trying to micromanage everything. And, you know, we've spoken a little bit about opportunities to detach from the mind and come into the body. And I just want to kind of explore that a little bit deeper. The reason being is that when we're constantly living in this cognitive space, in the mental space, it's a very masculine energy. We're constantly trying to strategize our next move, analyze what's going on in our days, plan everything. And that has a place. The masculine sense of structure is the foundation to our lives. It's really, really important. But if we operate in that space every single day on a day-to-day basis, we are merely operating in that survival mode. And as women, that survival mode for us specifically has some really detrimental consequences. Men seem to, and it's not that I encourage this for men at all, but because of their hormones and their bodies, they don't seem to take as much a knock in living in that survival mode as women do. And they don't seem to deal with as many challenging consequences. I'm not saying it's not difficult for them, but as women, we have bodies that are calling us to pay attention to them and to come out of that survival mode and into thriving. One of the ways in which you can start to kind of encourage this for yourself is firstly, time limits on your phone is number one. So for me, I don't start the day by looking at my phone. I spend the first half an hour to an hour connecting with myself. I'm not a mother yet, so I have that free time available for me. And I know that a lot of moms might not. But in the morning, if you can have a breathwork practice, connect your breath, a journaling practice, even writing down 3 things you're grateful for, or just dumping your thoughts onto a page, getting all that mental activity out onto paper allows you to step into that observational mode. And the minute you're in observational mode is the minute you're connected into the present. That can be really helpful. Having a prayer practice or a spiritual practice where you're able to, for me, I'm not necessarily religious, but I'm very spiritually connected. And what I do is I start the day off just reflecting on my mental states, my energetic state, my emotional state. And if there's a heavy burden, for me, sometimes it's often anxiety or struggle, which is going to mean that I'm going to be more rigid and controlling in my day to day. I often find myself surrendering over, whether it's a higher power, God, source, the divine, whatever you want to call it. There is a beautiful opportunity to start your morning in a surrendered space. And for me, it just starts by saying, whatever's on my chest or on my shoulders, please take this from me. Take this burden, take this heaviness. And whether you are religious, spiritually connected, or whatever spectrum you find yourself in, there's an opportunity for you to start the day in a softened space. And when you are more softened and there's a softness to the way you start your day, there is more spaciousness, there is more capacity to handle the overload of the day. So that morning routine is beautiful. Connect to self, hand over, surrender, connect to your breath, regulate your nervous system, definitely nourish your body in some way, shape, or form. And I'm sure Jackie can tell us that as well. And then whatever happens throughout the day, manage it, do the best you can, but anchor yourself back in little moments of mindfulness. Whether it's a cup of tea and taking a pause, going outside, getting your feet on the bare earth, getting some sunshine on your skin if you do have sunshine. And then another way to kind of finish off the day is having an evening routine that is quite similar to your morning. Instead of maybe setting intention, have a moment of reflection and connect to where you're at. I love to do what I call legs up the wall pose at the end of the day. And I lie on my bed with my legs in a 90-degree angle up against the headboard. And that is so, so good for your nervous system and your lymphatic system. But most importantly, it's 10 minutes where I'm listening to music and I'm digesting the day. I'm reflecting on how the day went. I'm just kind of scanning. And when I'm doing that, there is a release that happens because the processing that starts to happen in that relaxed state allows me to disconnect from the day and enter into that sleep state a lot more relieved and relaxed than I would have been if I didn't.
On the morning thing, I was thinking about this. I think both of you can relate to this. A lot of the women that we know, and us included, all had very corporate jobs. We did a lot of years of studies and we went into that like hustle kind of lifestyle and all of that. And then a lot of us left that. And one of the first things that I did, and I know other people did, you guys can share, is I stopped taking on clients in the morning. It was one of the things, I stopped working from 8 a.m. and I started actually setting most of my days started at 10 a.m. And it was such a profound thing to do, to have a slow morning. It was one of the things that helped me like cure my insomnia, was not stressing about having to wake up early and get, everything done right before the time and get into that meeting and be stuck in traffic and all of that.
And then a slower morning means you can make yourself a proper nourishing breakfast because, as Sam mentioned, I think there are definitely nutritional components that can contribute to you getting stuck in that fight or flight state as well. Because something that I notice with a lot of the clients I work with is not taking that time to properly prepare a nourishing meal means that their blood sugar is always out of balance. And what people often don't realize is that imbalanced blood sugar can show up as anxiety. It can show up as being constantly worried, constantly stuck in your head. Because when our blood sugar dips too low, the only way that our body can compensate and carry on functioning is by relying on our stress hormones. So once those stress hormones have kicked in to help bring our blood sugar back up, that's when our body starts operating in this fight or flight state and you get stuck in your head. And oftentimes just planning your meals, prioritizing your meals, and having those nourishing meals at regular intervals throughout the day, that can prevent that. That can prevent your body from going into a stress state. I think that we underlook the power of nutrition in supporting our body in that way.
Yeah. I also wanted to mention, Sam spoke about the ritual at the end of your day. Something that a lot of people find value in is if you work from home, to also schedule at the end of your day that transition period, especially if you have a family. We do this in our home for my husband who works from home. Before he just walks out of the office straight into like, okay, I need you to help me with this. I'm getting dinner on and I'm doing this. And, because we spend time together, to have maybe half an hour to himself between work and coming to that, because you're not having that travel time. Maybe super back in the day, or for a lot of other people who still have this type of lifestyle, if you were working, like say in the lands, you would have that time to walk home, think about your day, look at this sun going down a little bit or whatever. You would have this beautiful time. Now in our modern day, you're staring at a screen, you're like, yeah, and you're in meetings and you're answering emails, and you walk straight out of that into your family, which is a beautiful thing. Family time's amazing, but it's a different energy. And it would be beautiful if you had that transition time as opposed to just, okay, go from that, now go from this.
My fiance and I, we try our best to do, because we both work from home. And so it's very easy for the energy of work and the energy of and the intensity of the day to trickle into dinner time and to still be on our laptops. And so what we try to do, we don't do it all the time, but we try and go for a walk after work because that walk just creates that state change. It kind of just releases the day and it allows us to enter back into the home space as partners rather than as just work colleagues who are passing each other by. And so that state change, deciding on what it is for you that allows you to make that state change and then enter back into your home space in a different place.
Sorry, what I wanted to say there is if you do have a partner, I'm on a lot of like mom groups and you chat to a lot of moms. So that's just my frame of reference, but I think it's applicable to a lot of people. Maybe you want your partner to immediately like come help you because you've had such a busy day and your hands have been full. And like as a mom, sometimes, at the end of the day, I'm really excited for my husband to come because I've been juggling a lot and it could give me a little bit of a break. But I think the gift that we can give to our partners is to acknowledge the energy that we come to our family with and to say, if you take half an hour more, you actually come to our family with such a much better relaxed energy that your presence there is so much more valuable than if you didn't have that time. Or if as a family you can, right now it's winter for us, so we're not able to go for a walk in daylight after work. So we do that earlier. But for the most part, that is what we used to do after work is we go for a walk outside together as a family. And yes, we got to get back and do dinner and do all the things. You've always got things to do. Make it a thing.
And I think exactly like you said, and Sam mentioned earlier, like when you take that time, you create this spaciousness and this capacity to do more. So I think if someone says, but I don't have time to schedule in these practices, I don't have time to cultivate, these type of practices that bring me back to my body, that's when you need it even more. If you think you don't have time, that's when you need it even more because it creates time. It creates time in your day. It creates that capacity. When you're constantly on go, 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 I think we waste so much time, so much mental energy and capacity. So rather take that 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour if you can. And that it really does. It somehow creates more time in your day because you're clearer. Your mind is not running all over the place. And you get things done more efficiently, and your time with your family and with the people that matter to you is so much more special that way.
I just want to say for those that do work at home, for me, I burnt out about two years ago because I stick with that morning rule as well now, like no clients before 10 a.m. It's a game changer. But what I started to do was because I have a lot of international clients, I'm often working till 9 o'clock, sometimes the latest 10 o'clock at night. And I didn't realize that I started my day at 8 a.m. And if I had evening clients, my day just went all the way into the evening. And so what I started to do was like I have breaks in between my clients and I would usually just sit at my laptop and work, productivity, go, 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 because I had subscribed to that kind of 9 to 5, sit at your desk, don't leave your desk. And I started to realize in my unique position, I had the privilege to get off my desk for a little bit. And it took a lot of reprogramming. Say, for instance, if I had a break between 12 and 2 to go sit in the sunshine and read my book for a little bit, if I have evening sessions, my whole body felt so uncomfortable and I had to deal with a lot of guilt and shame. Like, what am I doing? Like it's a work day. It's Wednesday. It's time to work. But you can also start to customize things to work for you. And I realized like I actually can create space and time to sit in that sunshine and to just pause and detach for a little bit, specifically if I'm working in the evening. And also realize that you don't need to subscribe to society's rules of how you need to work or how productive you need to be. I find that I'm the most productive and I have more capacity and more space to show up when I carve out time to detach, to fill up my cup and to restore what needs to be restored.
Yeah, I want to tie that into what is my module in our course. And Sam and I actually did a great discussion. It's in our course on this topic, is that programming of how you're supposed to work does not serve women. And like, I don't like to make such blanket statements, but I'm doing it anyway. And I think that it comes down to us living in the sort of masculine hormonal energy as opposed to what works for the female cycle. So if you're familiar with the female cycle, it's got 4 phases and our hormones are doing different things in those different phases. And it means that literally, like physically, this is not woohoo stuff. physically, your brain, your body has different energy and different requirements at different times of your cycle. And the kind of go, go, go masculine energy, it has a place for women as well. It does serve us really well, but it serves you when you're doing it at the time that your body is best in that state, which is your luteal phase. It's between ovulation and your period. It's typically 2 weeks. You will find yourself a lot less. It's a lot harder to just sit on the couch and stare at the window and be creative and all of that. You'll find yourself being a bit more to-do list, organizing your house. And that's because that's the great time to do it. But if you're forcing your body to do that throughout your cycle, you're not serving yourself. You're going to have that difficulty. I think the book In the Flow is literally like the whole catchphrase about the book is doing more with less energy if you're doing it in the state of your body. So all of my creative projects all come out in my follicular phase. So that's between your bleed and ovulation, sometimes including ovulation. That is where the plans, the ideas, all of that. Once I've ovulated, the implementation of that happens after I've ovulated. And once you learn to live in sync with that, it makes such a difference. Also, link down below, we've got a journal that can assist you with understanding what your body, your brain, your everything needs. And you can literally live in sync with your cycle every aspect of your life, your relationship, your friendships, your parenting, your home, your planning. I leave all my like very detailed orientated tasks to my luteal phase. And initially that felt so weird to come back to what Sam was saying, to say, you know what, this is not the phase where it's a good idea for me to be doing our finances and like sending my bank statements and doing all this kind of stuff. Like, this is the phase that I'm going to be creative and I'm going to lean into that because I know in a week, 2 weeks time, I'm going to be in the mindset to do that other thing. So it's perfectly fine for me to leave it now and to learn to say, I can leave it now because there's going to come a phase where it's going to feel so good to do it as opposed to forcing myself to do it now where it definitely doesn't feel good to do.
Yeah, and something that I've learned a lot through understanding my cycle is to lean into that creativity, leading up to ovulation especially, because I feel like creativity is not prized in society. Like, I feel like that we learn this from a young age at school, that maths, science, accounting, those are the important subjects. Art, music, dance, those are for those very skilled people that are really good at painting, are really good at dance, really have a really good singing voice. They're the creatives, so they can do that. But everyone else should really focus on maths and accounting and science and whatever. And like, I've had to retrain that in my head of saying, like, maybe I'm not the best artist or the best at, playing music or whatever, but it still feels good to me. Like, it feels good to me to learn a new instrument. It doesn't mean I have to go play, I'm going to go play gigs one day, but it feels good to me to be creative in that way. It feels good to me for me to draw. Like, I'm not an amazing artist, but it feels really good. And just lean into that creativity and allow yourself to explore that. I think that really brings, like, for me, that can bring me back into that feminine sort of flow state where I'm feeling a lot more at ease.
And I think Sam can speak a lot more on this, but I think creativity with just the presence of creativity, like one of the things that was an adjustment for my husband and I've been doing creative projects for most of my life, and some of them are just weird and I just do whatever. So my gran is a philatelist, is someone who collects stamps. So she would send me stamps that have no value to her collections, and I stick them on things and I make art out of these stamps. And then my husband would be like, what's the point? Are you going to gift it? Are you going to put it up? And I was like, I don't know. Might just throw it away when I'm done. But right now it feels fun to do. So a lot of the time, your creative project, it doesn't need to contribute necessarily to your life or even know how is this going to contribute. Like, it might result in something that contributes to your life, but it doesn't have to. You don't have to think, oh, this must be of value to me or to somebody. Can just do it because it feels good, and you can paint something that kind of looks crappy, but it was fun to paint.
Totally. And I think creativity is the one thing that, like you said, unless you're highly skilled, don't do it. If you're not an amazing dancer, you don't dance. If you're not an incredible painter, you don't paint. It's so ridiculous on every level. And I think what you're also exploring here, Calms, is that masculine energy is very destination focused. It has a point. It has a purpose. You're going somewhere. And creativity does not need that energy. You don't need to create something in order to sell it, in order to give it to someone, in order to marvel at your artwork. Creativity is about being in the journey of creation. Creativity is an energy that is a life force energy. It evokes life force energy inside of you. It awakens something inside of us. And it also gives you a permission slip. For me personally, to release the idea of things needing to be perfect. I am by no way, shape, or form anything close to a good artist. And for a long time, because I have such a perfectionist streak, I didn't even bother because I would get so frustrated because what I had in my brain was not translated through my hands. It was such a powerful practice to me where I recognized I was tearing off paper after 5 minutes at a time because it just kept not looking right. And I had to pause and tell myself, I'm going to continue with this because I'm just going to be in the process of creation, not to create something beautiful. And that was such a powerful lesson in life in general, is being part of the journey rather than attaching some kind of expectation to the destination allows more flow. It allows more of a state of being rather than a state of doing. And as specifically as women, I find a lot of women to be very hardcore perfectionists. If you can start to give yourself permission to release the tendency to be perfect at everything, you do create more flow and more ease and more peace in your life. And you also give yourself an opportunity to try a lot more things because there isn't this expectation of being an expert level the minute you start it. And what you do is you create a lot more possibility, a lot more opportunity, and a lot more openness to life. You just become more open and more receptive. And that idea of receptivity is an openness and an expansive state. And that in and of itself is a feminine regulated state, which creates more peace in general.
I think, Sam, this is probably, I'm taking words out of your mouth, or I think you've said this before, but just a reminder to everybody, you have permission to play and you should be playing. And you really, if it's something that you struggle with, because this is something I struggled with and I still sometimes struggle with it, I can still be a little bit too much intensity a lot of the time, is in your follicular phase, try to lean in hard because that's the phase is going to be the easiest. So if you can start to do it in the phase that is the easiest, you can start to bring it in the phases where it's not so easy. And force yourself to just do ugly art or to do stuff, creative thing that might not be great. So maybe you're not good at cooking, but just cook if it's fun for you. Peel the things, do the stuff with your hands, play with your partner, even if it feels unnatural and that's something you guys have never done. Just say to them, yeah, this feels awkward to me too. Let's try it. Let's be awkward together. And if you are a mom, constantly think to yourself, I've got a little being or little beings watching me. What do I want them to see? Do I want them to see someone who's stressed and uptight, or do I want them to know that life can be fun and we can play and life is not The Sims? You do not have to be ticking all those skill boxes. And I know because the Sims expansion I bought was ambitions. Like that was such a typical me thing. Like the expansion was literally like ambitions, how many skills can you build? And life is not a game of Sims. It's living it is the point of it. So every day, that's the point of it, is how is your experience every single day? And can you just live your life instead of trying to get to a destination in life? And that's not to say don't have goals. That's saying your entire life is not a collection of skills and productivity and outputs. You can just be.
One more thing I want to say just to touch on that is so many of my clients, when I'm giving them things regarding their healing journey or their transformation journey, the biggest factor that I add in there is joy. And I get them all to make what I call a joy priority list. And I get them to write down every single thing that brings them joy, whether it's a cup of coffee at their favorite coffee shop or painting or lying on the grass or whatever it may be. And the part of the journey is to choose one thing on that list every single day to activate. And that can be such a powerful reminder of that playfulness, that joy, that experience of living life and not just getting through life. That's, I think, the biggest difference here.
I love that. That's a lot of wisdom there, Sam, and from Jackie as well. And I think that is a great place for us to stop this. And I think that there was a lot shared in this video. As you can hear, it's an ongoing journey for the three of us, like, we didn't reach the final destination of this. Remember, if you liked what we said in this video, this is kind of like a tip of what is covered in our course. I think Sam has an entire module that has a lot of stuff around bringing in little things throughout your day and your week and your month that can make such a difference to the way that you are. The first module in our course is Sam's one, and it covers so much of this. And then my module is the next one, which is tracking your cycle and learning how to live in sync with your body and understanding your body. And then you've got Jackie with a lot of wisdom around nutrition, because as you heard, a lot of what you may be experiencing could be fixed with some minor diet changes. So that would be awesome. That's linked down below. And if you enjoyed this discussion and found value in it, please remember to subscribe, like it, share it with other people that you think might find value. And we have more exciting discussions coming up for you. So stay tuned for that.
Thanks so much for joining us today.